My name is Richard McBride. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I have ALS. You may know it better as Lou Gehrig's disease, the long medical term amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or as it's known in England and around the rest of the world, motor neuron disease. First of all, I was a father and at that time a husband, family man. I traveled the world extensively on business. The nickname that guys gave me was Mr. Field and Stream. I hunted, I fished, I had a sailboat, sailed out off the coast of British Columbia, explored extensively. I was a very active guy. I was in really good physical shape. I have 3 daughters and my son. And my 2 oldest daughters now have 2 children themselves each, so I have 4 grandchildren, which is fascinating because I never expected to meet any of them. The first one was born at the same time as I started to become symptomatic. At first I attributed it to a bad knee. I even started wearing a knee brace more often. And then I started blaming it, after I had a boating accident that summer, and I started blaming it on a bad back. I found pretty much every other excuse. All the while my doctor was telling me to go to a neurologist and get checked. And ultimately I did. The neurologist looks at me and says, you know, plain old everyday ordinary run-of-the-mill ALS. And my first thought was to ask the doctor, what's the prognosis? And I'm very direct about this. I'm a matter-of-fact guy. So I said, what's the prognosis? What's the plan? She says, well, there is no treatment. There's no real plan, but we'll get you into our ALS clinic. I said, how long? And she said, 36 months. Typically, patient like you, you've got 36 months to live. And that hit home. I just burst into tears. I absolutely collapsed. And all I could think to say was, I don't want to die. A buddy of mine picked me up on Friday. We went away to a cabin for the weekend with a whole bunch of my friends, and they all refer to that Friday night as the night of crying. By Saturday, I had pretty much accepted that I had ALS. I hadn't accepted some facets of it, and in fact, I still fight against accepting certain facets of it. Because every day with ALS, you get a new loss. You go through another grieving cycle. So I accepted the idea that I had ALS pretty quickly. In fact, as odd as it sounds, I kind of embraced it. This is what my life is going to be now. How am I going to live this life? What am I going to do to enjoy it? How do I find fulfillment and joy in a life that's going to be increasingly difficult? The first 6 or 8 months was terrifying. On the other hand, my commitment to being alive helped me a lot. My son came to stay with me. We did some road trips. I did some travel, continued to travel. Even into my second year, went to Europe with a friend, had a wonderful time. I discovered over that period of a couple of years that I could drive my truck with my hand controls and do massive road trips. My truck has been my life in terms of keeping me mobile and engaged in living. I'm a bit of an adventurer, and it's allowed me to continue to adventure. There are a couple of things that bring true joy and fulfillment to my life. Most of those revolve around the people in my life. Catherine, my partner now, who I do all kinds of things with, my daughter who lives here in Calgary, my ability to see my other children and my grandchildren, and an incredible group of tremendously supportive friends here in Calgary. If I don't have a focus, if I don't have a reason to live, I decide I don't want to. And so the joy comes in being busy, in being fulfilled in friendships. I still try and find ways to get out on the road in my truck, to travel a bit. I'm not doing Europe anymore, but I was in Edmonton last weekend to see my brother in a stage play. I am not the disease, and the disease is not me. Sometimes I even forget I have the disease. It's such a just part of my life. You know, I'm driving down the highway in the truck and I'm going along like everybody else, and it's easy to think I'm normal. And in many ways I still am normal, or as my friends would say, abnormal. The disease has made me much more cognizant of the proximity of death. That whenever I do anything, I have to think, is this the last time? When I see a grandchild, I have to think, is this the last time? My mother, who's 84 years old, will I see her again before she dies or I die? I'm counting down the days because I know the days are there to be counted. It's quite a thing to have death go from being a subjective to an objective, to have it going from theory to practice. I think the toughest thing about my life today is waking up each morning. The first thought that typically comes to mind is, shit, another day like this. Mornings are terrible for me. It's hard to get up. It's very physically difficult and demanding to sit up, to transfer to my chair, to go to the bathroom, to have a shower, to get back onto my bed, to get dressed. All of that is a fight. And all the while during that fight, I'm thinking, I don't want to do this. But I keep doing it. Then after I'm up and dressed, I'll come out and I'll write in my blog. Now, the blog for me, it's funny, it started as a cathartic thing, a way for me to tell people about my life. But now I've been writing it for over 3 years. It's really an ongoing saga, a combination of what I do in my life, how I live my life, and what it's like to live with ALS. It's not a single story. Because you lose a little bit each day, you grieve a little bit each day, and you adjust a little bit each day, and every day brings a new change, and you learn to live with that constant pattern. But the last 6 or 8 months have seen a noted progression in my upper body. The psychological side is really challenging. I'm in this weird place where I kind of wish I was dead, but I don't want to die. I wish the disease would kill me, but I don't want to, I want to stay alive. I have plans for ending my life on my own schedule, but I don't know if I have the courage to do it, because I kind of want to see what's going to happen tomorrow. I've already lived more than 60 years of a good, fulfilled life. I've had the kind of life you can write books about. I've sailed the open ocean. I've hunted big game and had it hunt me back. I've been tracked and chased by grizzly bears, wolves. I've ridden motorcycles up and down mountainsides. I've walked in the Arab deserts. I've explored the castles of Europe and enjoyed the wine and sunshine of South Africa. I've been to the Far East. I still want to do more. It's not like I'm ready to give up, but dying wouldn't be the worst possible solution to all of this. I just don't want to die a miserable death. You have a disease that's going to kill you. That's called being alive. Everybody dies from something. This is just what I'm going to die from. So the secret is not that I'm going to die. It's how I'm going to live until I die. And that I have a tremendous amount of choice and control over.
How much better it is now?
I got a disease. Too bad. I mean, it really is too bad. It's an ugly, nasty disease. It's horrible. But you know what? I also have a life to live. And my word to anybody who's been recently diagnosed is you're going to live until you die. Be sure you live before you die. Don't give up early. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be this massive fighter. I'm not. You don't see me at the heads of parades. I'm not an inspirational figure. I'm not a massive fundraiser or a star or anything. I'm just a guy in a wheelchair trying to have a good time for as long as I've got. And that's the way to live.